Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. You've got a story to share, a message to inspire, and a passion ready to ignite. But where do you start? The world is waiting for your voice. With From Idea to Implementation, Start Your Own Podcast, you'll get the roadmap to turn your vision into reality. This isn't just a course, it's your launching pad. Step by step, we'll break down the process from defining your purpose to recording your first episode so you can finally share your voice with confidence. Stop overthinking it and start doing it. Your voice has the power to connect and lead. Are you ready to use it? Join the waitlist today. Your podcast journey starts now. The world is waiting. You can find the link to sign up for the waitlist in the show notes. We'll see you soon. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Melissa Center. She is an actress, an award-winning filmmaker, a speaker, a champion and advocate for women and women's voices, and also known as the Crowdfunding Queen. Welcome, Melissa. How you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is my honor and my pleasure. Thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today. I'm looking forward to jumping in and sharing all about the beautiful light you put out into the world through the work you do, a little bit about your story and your journey. So with that being said, let's jump right in. You are one hell of a busy woman with all those hats and titles that you wear. Where do you find the time for all of this, and how do you prioritize, and how important is prioritization and organization for you?
Really good question. I don't know how I do it really. I feel like I've always been a very kind of goal-oriented doer, an action taker. I can't say that I have this I've always been clear on my vision or things that I want, but I can't say that I've been the best master planner. I just kind of see something and I'm intuitive with the steps I'm going to take. It's not the most organized.
It's a bit of a shit show, but
it's a bit of a shit show. Yeah. So I don't know if it's just having a creative brain or whatever. That's I've just been resigned that I guess that's how I operate.
Yeah.
I am good with structure and I can implement that if need be. It's always for me kind of like a dance between letting myself be in some sort of flow and then switching back to a structure mode. So that's an ongoing life conversation for me of what's comfortable and what I like better and what to use when.
Right.
I think it's something will take focus. So something will be a need that I have to pay attention to now. And that's where most of my energy goes. And so then naturally, I think then other actions kind of ebb and flow accordingly. So I'll just share, for example, June and July, no, it's July now, May and June, I had my solo show up and running here in New York. And so that was requiring so much of my time, energy, focus, spirit, everything that my business building, I had to take a back seat there, right? I just you can't do everything at one time. So now that has temporarily, that mental run was successful and is on pause until we, figure out next steps. Now I'm okay, we have to fuel up and fire up my business building so I can regulate financially and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's not the most comfortable, but I think I just don't know how else to be.
Yeah. It's the plight of creatives. This is how it is, right? So I'm curious then, what does your morning routine look like? Do you have a morning routine?
I do. Usually I'll wake up at a decently reasonable hour. I'll try to start my day either with a meditation or something kind of inward, whether that's a challenge that I'm working on that I have journaling around or just a general meditation. And then I do like to take my time with breakfast and coffee. It feels like a ritual to me. So I'll cozy up with my coffee and my food and really take my time with that. I have a dog, so I have to walk my dog. Yeah. That's a whole thing. And then it really depends on the day in terms of what I'm doing with my actions. Mondays tend to be like business oriented for me and like crowdfunding specific.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tuesdays for me, I go to my dance class on Tuesdays. So then I give myself a little bit more like creative freedom.
Right.
And then so on and so forth.
Right.
Yeah. So the beginning of my day feels kind of structured, and then it just
it flows out from there.
The day happens. And then I'm like, I think I need to watch some TV now.
So what drives, motivates, and inspires you to keep going and excelling at all that you do, Melissa?
I've always had just an intrinsic drive. I was in pretty ambitious. I've always felt like I respond well to challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt like I have a lot to offer the world as a person, as an artist. And I'm kind of like never satisfied with where I'm at. I am, but I'm not, right? Like I know that I have, ultimate goals, right? That I'm not there yet. And so I keep taking big steps forward, and I can recognize that and be like proud of myself, but I'm like, I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still work to do. There's always work to do though. I mean, we're always evolving and always growing and wanting to do more and expanding. So that's a good thing. So can you share with us then what you were doing for a living before making the jump into the world of being an actress and producer and writer and all the things?
So I was always pursuing my acting career after school, and I moved. So I went to Northwestern for school. I was in the theater program there, music theater certificate program, and I studied communications. So it is a liberal arts school. So I kind of had a balanced education.
Right.
I stayed in Chicago a short bit and then started to work theater there and started to work in restaurants. So I was like total cliche. And I moved to New York, and I was working in restaurants in between acting gigs and auditioning all the time. And so sometimes, I would book a show that took me out of town, and I would be paid to do that. And then that would end, and it was like restaurants in between.
Right.
And then I'm sure I had some like odd jobs around that, but it was primarily the restaurant stuff that was my source of income. And then when I moved to LA, I felt like I needed to figure something else out because it didn't feel like it was going to be sustainable for me for my like entire life. And that was a real struggle, to be honest, out there, always like figuring out what is going to be supplemental to what I really truly want to do. It was challenging. So at first I started to tutor, but then it didn't feel like enough income really to make it make sense. I ended up working in restaurants again. And then at some point I decided to leave. I was starting to coach actors.
Okay.
Someone brought me into their like studio, and I was like, okay, maybe I can kind of foray out of this. And so I was starting to coach actors. And then also an actor friend of mine had moved into like the tech space and hired me for a couple of startups to do like sales and business development. Right. So I did some of that, which was fine, but I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And it was never, I never quite found something that I enjoyed enough that made me enough money that I felt like I could justify doing.
Yeah.
That was tricky. And then crowdfunding really happened quite organically. And then for the first time I was like, okay, I don't hate this. Yeah. I know that it's like skills that I've learned that I'm good at. I'm still in the same world of what I'm trying to do creatively and interacting with other creatives. And so that's like, it just felt like win-win-win.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like a path kind of open for me because I essentially like built it knowingly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's been a real gift from my transition back from LA back to New York. And now it's like, okay, we're constantly also evolving. Like, how do I continue to make this sustainable? How do I expand so that I'm like, growing financially and not, just like making ends meet or whatever.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so, as you mentioned, you lived in LA for a while. Now, being an actor is a tough road and career path for a lot of people. And as you said, you did the cliche thing where you were working in restaurants while in between acting gigs. So you left LA and came back to New York. Now I always hear from people that I speak to that have gone out to LA to pursue their dreams of Hollywood and movies and television. They do exactly what you said. They end up in that cliche job where they're waiting tables, working in restaurants, whatever that is. Why did you choose to take that leap and head out to LA and chase that dream of becoming an actress? What was the inspiration there for you?
So I felt like at the time when I was in New York, I was hitting my head against the wall in a lot of ways. I was working in theater and musical theater. I really wanted to do television and film work. And there was some stuff here. It was like, you know, the Law and Order franchise, but it hadn't really expanded like it has now in the past like decade.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for me to even get in the room for Law and Order. Like I couldn't even get an audition.
Okay.
And I felt like I'm really petite. I look young. I was doing musical theater. So I feel like I was pegged at that point as like a musical theater performer.
Right.
And it didn't feel like the stuff that I was kind of physically or type right for wasn't lining up with what I felt like I had to offer inside as an artist. The work that was being done then was very like the Broadway stuff was all like jukebox musicals. I just didn't connect to it. Like there's something more inside me that I need to feel like that's a fit. And so it was like really draining. But I was finding fulfillment in work that I was doing with a mentor of mine. And then I was hired to like originate this solo play that like had guts to it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I feel like I'm being properly used as an actor. I felt like I could be taken seriously. And around that time, I then started to create my own work. So I had some sort of calling card. I made like a web series. So it was some opportunities opened up for me to like check out LA. And then I decided to move because I thought, you know what? I really want to do TV film work. I'm not getting any younger. It's kind of like, if I don't move now, then I'm not going to ever do it.
Then when? Yeah.
Yeah. Then when? And like I could tell that my being wanted to be there. You know, there was just things coming into my sphere that was like, LA.
Yeah.
Like my mind was there.
Right.
And so I went. And showbiz wise, I felt like fairly quickly I started to make traction. You know, like it didn't take me so long to get an agent. I was in this like Northwestern showcase, and that's how that came out. Out of that. I got into my first TV audition in the first year, right, and was like pinned, as they say. So I was like, oh, okay. It was for a small role on New Girl. I didn't book that particular role, but it was like enough of reassurance or whatever. That was like, okay, this is actually possible.
Yeah.
In my second year, I started to book. So I like booked my very first TV show, Grimm. And then shortly thereafter, a recurring role on Grey's Anatomy, you know, a couple of things. So I felt very validated in my choice. I was like, I did it, Mom.
Yes. It was the right choice.
Yeah. No, of course, that's not enough to pay your life with. You know, so you have to kind of always balance.
Yeah.
And so the show busy stuff, I was like, that's moving along steadily. It was the life stuff to support all of that, and just not only just job wise, but like to be a sustainable human that really I struggled with.
Right.
So it's a very tough environment. And for me, it was very kind of psychically draining in many ways, ultimately. And so being a focused, goal-oriented person, I kind of was like, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. I'm going to push. And then I started to filmmake, and like, you know, I generated a lot of work for myself, but my personal life really like took a nosedive.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
And so we hear about the whole male-dominated world of Hollywood and how the entertainment industry can be notoriously challenging. What obstacles did you face as a woman in the industry, if any, and how did you overcome them?
Thankfully, I didn't have any, like, in terms of career, I didn't have any like gross, stereotypical Hollywood experiences like that. What I did find, because I'm such a like go-getter, doer, I'm very direct, right? I ask for what I need. I go for it. I push.
Mhm.
I kind of felt like that wasn't always welcome,
Okay.
and so I don't know if that's because I'm a woman and that can be off-putting to people.
Mhm.
I'm also like, again, like I look a certain way, so maybe people would assume that I act a certain way, but then when they experience whatever my drive or my kind of go-getterness, I always felt like there was a barrier there with
Okay.
people, communities, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was tricky for me. I felt like I was respected, but not always like included.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's just like an LA thing. I don't know if that's a gender thing. I don't know if it's just, not everyone has to love you, and that's okay.
Yep.
But that was something I felt very specifically there that I never felt here.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't.
No, that's okay. No, that's all for that bit of the conversation.
Can you share a pivotal moment or experience from your journey as an actress that has helped shape who you are today?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Can you share a pivotal moment or experience from your journey as an actress that has helped shape who you are today?
Gosh, I feel like it all does, like every step of the way. I do really feel like, and I got the chills thinking about this, I do really feel like the mentor who I ended up studying with here in New York, his name was Win Hanman. He since passed, unfortunately. But for the first time when I was studying with him and like in class, in his studio, in his spaces, I really felt truly seen.
Mm-hmm.
And a good teacher offers that. And so I felt that I had so much to offer, which was reflected in him. And this is someone who, I wholeheartedly respect.
Yeah.
Who he's worked with, who he's nurtured, who he's cultivated. And he had me originate this solo piece for his theater. And that gave me so much confidence in myself. Like I would have never thought that was even possible for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that really created a template inside me for that kind of work. And that's why my solo show today exists.
Right.
And so much of like what even my creating the web series that I originally created, the first project, came at the time when I was working with him.
Okay.
So I feel like I felt really like so many things were possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt uplifted in a way that I had other teachers like here, like Austin Pendleton I had studied with, who's like a gem and lovely. And I felt like respected by him. But in my university life, sometimes those programs can be really detrimental to people. Mm-hmm. And I had an experience with the musical theater aspect of that where I felt really like my self-esteem was inferior when I left, when first went in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's this old school way of teaching where you break people down to build them back up. And for me, that was very detrimental.
Right.
This is a person that like really like appreciated sensitive, delicate individuals and helped uplift us. Mm-hmm. So that changed my artistic career, I feel like, and just how I operate as a human, really. So I come back to him a lot.
Yeah. He helped you level up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, as you mentioned, when you went to LA, you felt that your acting, your professional career was doing good, but you didn't feel at home. Your personal life wasn't where you wanted it. So that being said, I would imagine, even in New York, I guess it doesn't matter where you are really, but the demands of the industry can take a toll on your mental health. How do you prioritize self-care and maintain mental well-being amidst all the pressures as an actress?
Yeah, I mean, it's essential if you want to survive. I mean, you hear all these stories of people like having peak success and then just crumbling. And I can understand why, because of the demands of this industry and the uncertainty and the inconsistency. So you really have to be a strong person in order to have a sustainable career. Mm-hmm. So I came at this, I'm very grateful for my upbringing. I came at this career like with some strength, understanding of who I am and all this. But certainly, especially my time there, I had an erosion of my mental health. And so I went to therapy for the first time, so I learned I learned skills there. I've always been, when I moved here, I was introduced to meditation. So that became a practice. I always loved like yoga and meditation. So I've maintained that. I've always been an inner excavator. I think you kind of have to be as an actor too.
Yeah.
So I'm always kind of digging in and seeing, you know, things that need to be healed or whatever inside me. And you know, now I have some tools to do that. I've sought out mentors in that area, right, to help me with practical ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a long time to even understand like how you fix a problem.
For sure.
So, yeah. So I've sought out various helpers in that area, and then you learn like, oh, actually I respond well to this kind of modality, or you know, and
you've equipped yourself with the tools.
Yeah.
Through the process.
Yeah.
Now you've done work both in television and film. Do you have a preference of which medium you enjoy working in more than the other? And if so, why one over the other?
Filmmaking in general is really fun because it's so collaborative, you know, and it's like you see the mechanics all coming together in a really exciting way. TV is very fast paced, and you kind of like, you're showing up to set, you're there, and then you're gone.
Right.
And so because I haven't been a series regular yet, I have, you know, that's a different.
Yet being the operative word.
Yeah. So I think with that comes a more of a sense of like relationship and family that is missing from you show up to guest on a show or you show up to co-star in a show. You're kind of like in and out.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're invited to someone else's party, and that's a very specific experience. With film, again, it depends what's your role within that. Are you showing up as an actor for a day? In my case, because I've made films, like my feature film, it was me 24/7, right? I was like the lead actor producing, and so you have this real bonding sense with the cast, with the crew, with this like moment in time that's really beautiful and thrilling, really. Yeah. That's very special. I would like to do another movie soon.
Do you have a preference though of one over the other? You enjoy the processes, both the processes?
Yeah, I enjoy both the processes. It doesn't seem so different. Like TV film, it's a very same muscle. I think TV film is very different than theater. So
that was my next question.
Yeah.
So out of the three then, do you prefer theater over the other two, or?
They feed different parts.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Theater is like, you're really without a safety net.
Right. But that's where your roots are, is theater, right? For you.
There's something very special about getting on stage and having that communal, live, tactile experience. It's very, it's very thrilling, and it's very special. So that is my home.
Yeah.
But there's a different kind of challenge in TV film as far as being an actor. It's more of an intimate exercise in intimacy.
Yeah.
Like trust, listening, intimacy, and like just stripping away. And in theater, it's like, you know, different aliveness.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as mentioned, you are an advocate for women and women's voices. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the filmmaking industry on a whole, the entire industry, and how prevalent now, in your experience, is that old boys club of the 30s, 40s, 50s, that type of thing? Is it still as prevalent?
I think it's certainly evolved, but you know, I think the bedrock of the industry, and it's the bedrock of all industries. So definitely there's more progress that has been made. Women are very much in leadership roles, you know, behind the scenes, in front of the camera. We're seeing more diverse humans on screen, you know, different forms of beauty, you know, so that's great. And it still feels like it's easier for white men to just kind of
we still have a long way to go, in other words.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it seems easier sometimes, depending on who you are, for people to just kind of like have robust careers, whereas other people just have to fight for a little bit more. Or find just other creative ways to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think we are seeing evolution in terms of more women stepping into roles of director, producer, and things like that, but it's still nowhere near where it should be or where it needs to be. There's still a long way to go.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to discuss your filmmaking work now. What inspired you to get into filmmaking in particular? And can you speak a little bit about your journey into filmmaking?
So I think because, my foundation was on stage, but I did always love the movies. Like, if you can see behind me, that is my original E.T. doll when I was like 3.
Wow.
Pick it up, actually. It's poor thing. It's really kind of sad looking. So one of my first movie, I don't know, one of my first memories was going to see E.T. and I was obsessed.
Yeah.
And one of my first birthday parties, I share this story all the time, was an E.T. birthday party. I had an E.T. cake and like this, my mom has some picture with me in this like cardboard mask, E.T. And then I got this. And this was sitting on my dresser in my bedroom for years and years and years and years. It used to have vinyl skin.
Used to.
It's only a couple years old.
Yeah.
Its skin has fallen off. But yeah, I was enchanted by movies. And so that just like captured my heart, my imagination. Love movies. I love TV. I was a couch potato as a kid. I love movie musicals. I sing and dance. So I was like, I loved, I would watch kind of old fashioned movie musicals with my mom. And I just wanted it so bad. And so, but theater was what was accessible, that's what's just available to kids for classes and plays and stuff in school. My parents were not stage parents. They were like, go to law school, Yeah. It was always kind of in me, this desire.
Yeah.
And so as then it became more accessible to self-make things, right? Because technology, it offered me the opportunity to start experimenting with that. And I was in a relationship for a long time with someone who was in the filmmaking industry. So I kind of had an entry point to colleagues and comrades in that world, which was very important to me at the time. And so I started to like observe and learn the language. And then again, because it was people were starting to make their own work. And, I made my web series. This was my first stab at translating some of my work into a visual medium. And then I wanted to keep doing that. So when I moved to LA, it's not a theater place, right?
Yeah.
Just like if you're going to produce something, it's going to be for screen.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to. I taught myself how to write. I wanted to write a movie. I love movies. I wanted to be in a movie. And so I thought, well, if no one's going to hire me right now, I can write one for myself, and I was working with so many wonderful actors who I really, really respected. So that's, collaboration started to bubble out of that.
Right. Okay.
And then all of a sudden I was a filmmaker. I was like, okay, I guess I'm a filmmaker.
I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many filmmakers aspire to leave behind a lasting legacy through their work. What legacy do you hope to leave with your films, and what impact do you aim to have on your audiences?
I do want people to understand what it's like to be a woman in this world. And I think a lot of my work is very viscerally tied to that. So that's important to me. And, also as our kind of personal experiences evolve, then the work that comes out of those personal experiences evolves. So I'm personally curious how, like, what's going to be coming next for me. Right? Yeah. I had this Picasso had his blue phase or whatever. Yeah. There are these like phases, and the work that was bubbling out of me in Los Angeles came from a place of a lot of pain.
Right.
And as now I'm back in New York and I'm a little bit more myself, and my solo show was written there, but it has a lot of my New York kind of thing to it. As it functioned almost like as a bridge from who I was to back. So there's more silliness and more life there. And so I think as my work moves forward, that the musicality of my spirit, I think will continue to come to the forefront. And I am curious to lean into identity more so. I'm a Jewish woman, and that was just kind of like part of who I was, but I never felt so inclined to like have that be at the forefront of my writing or creating. And now that feels like more urgent to me.
Mm-hmm.
So to like all aspects of who I am, to really have those come at the forefront of my next projects is important. Yeah. And I think in addition, I want people to take away, there's something about, for me, what does it mean to lead an authentic life? And it doesn't have to always look like what's normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or accepted by societal norm. And so that you can have a unique print on the world, and that's okay. And for other people to feel inspired or like a sense of freedom in seeing me.
Yeah. Beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit about the projects that you've produced? I know you said you did a feature film, you've done a short film, you did your web series. Can you talk a little bit about those and where the inspiration came from for all of this? Can you speak a little bit about that?
So the very, very first thing that I produced was this web series called Missed Connections Live. And that was coming out of, I was doing a lot of solo character work with my mentor, but the work that we were doing then was quite serious. And I think my spirit was like needing an antidote to that.
Yeah.
And I came across on Craigslist the section, the misconnection section, and I was reading these things. And New York is so like kinetic and alive, and people are interacting, and I was just like enchanted by it. I was like, what is this? And there were so many amazing posts there that were inspiring my imagination. And I was wondering, like, who are these people that write these things? Do they think that they're actually going to encounter the person at the receiving end? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so I started, it was like a treasure trove of nuggets and writing. And so I started to assemble those things. And it was an opportunity for me to explore character, not always like gender bend or, there were no rules, and it really inspired my imagination. So I started very simply by like shooting almost like little monologue style. So it would be, the episode would be, I would be in a costume and the environment would suit the tone, but it was more of a like one-off. And then as I went on, I learned how to tell story more visually. Mm-hmm. So it kind of grew there. So that was the inspiration there to like a love letter to New York City, a desire to explore character and like these really kooky people's psyche.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to LA, it was I had made a short with a friend that was a very tiny exercise. We were inspired by a particular female filmmaker. So we wanted to create something kind of as an homage to her. Right. But that wasn't like a big old project. It was more of an exercise for us. My first big project was my feature film, All I Want. And that came out of the demise of a 10-year relationship.
Okay.
And the fact that I was in a creative collaboration with a bunch of great actors, and I wanted to create an ensemble project for us all to be in. Mm-hmm. But there was something in my spirit that was like, I was wrestling with this end of a relationship, and I needed to process. And so the story preceded the end of the relationship, actually. It was like my psyche trying to work it out before I felt comfortable ending it.
Yeah.
So that was very much coming from kind of personal agitation. And then that was a big deal, that project, to produce and do all the things for. I wasn't anticipating making something so soon. Yeah. But suddenly, we had a very challenging election that, having experienced some unsavory things in my personal life, really concerned me with how what was going to unfold for women in this country. Mm-hmm. And so I felt I didn't know what I could do to use my voice. Protesting, women's rights is valuable, but I just felt like it can go to a march or whatever. I don't think that's going to have the most impact, but I'm learning how to tell a story. Mm-hmm. So I decided to make a short film about the threat to women's reproductive rights. That came to me pretty immediately after the election, because I was really afraid that this would mean, Roe was at risk of being overturned, which eventually, we know the history now.
Yeah.
So I made a film. I started to research women's experiences where they didn't have access to safe abortions. Mm-hmm. And then I was getting concerned. And so I wrote this inspired by that, and like, well, what might happen if these rights are revoked. And so that film tracks the protagonist's journey seeking care in a state in which there's no safe choice to do. And then, so I did it backwards. I made a feature film first and then a short.
Yeah, typically it would be the other way around, right? Yeah, people would do a short and then a feature.
Yeah, but whatever. That's what needed to come out.
Yep.
And then my next short is a very short, but that comes from an experience I had with sexual assault.
Okay.
So that, to me, I mean, that was the inspiration. Yeah. But I think initially I wrote it in screenplay form as a way to process what had happened when I kind of became clear to me what actually happened.
Yeah.
And then I made it as a submission for a women's filmmaking program. So it was like an excuse for me to make it.
Yeah.
And I didn't do a whole film festival. So I did a couple of festivals with that, but having done a whole circuit with the RV, I submitted to a few, but that was more kind of for myself. And then I hooked up with a couple of organizations who were in the space, that they had a screening, this type of thing. Right. But I didn't do a whole campaign to get it out there in the same way that I did with the RV, because frankly, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the inspiration for those film projects. And then it all comes together in my solo show, Marrying Jake Gyllenhaal.
Let's jump into that. And so you do, as you said, your roots are in theater.
Yeah.
You developed your first solo show, which just finished a successful run in New York. Yeah. You tell us about the show. I love the story of where the inspiration came from for the show. So can you please tell us about the whole experience?
Yeah. So it's funny because there's all this like connective tissue with the show, and so much of even what was prompting some of the filmmaking that I did and my life experience up until this point. I had mentioned I was feeling pretty depleted as a human there. And so there was something in my being that needed help. and I had learned about myself that I think I process trauma, or I move on through my storytelling. And so something was calling out to me in a very specific way to write this play. Now, what incited it was my mom. So that relationship that ended, which was the kind of source of my feature film, All I Want. So the relationship ended, and then suddenly I was a single person for the first time in a long time in Los Angeles, which is a very special place to be a single person. So I was dating all of a sudden in this new world too, where it was like apps, and, this was a different way of dealing with people. And that was not a pleasant experience. My mom started sending me articles about Jake Gyllenhaal. And like, she likes to send me articles in the mail anyways about things that are like somewhat pertinent to my life, along with like $2. It's very sweet. So she sends me like a newspaper article about Jake Gyllenhaal being like an eligible bachelor. And I'm like, okay, Mom, what? And so, that was the first time. And I'm like, all right, I just kind of ignored it. But she like wouldn't stop. So she would, every time he would appear on something or some publicity would come out around him, she would email it to me or send me cut in from the newspaper, from the Chicago Tribune or whatever, and mail it to me. So it started to become like this family joke of like, Allison, who's my sister, like, can you please, someone's got to talk, Dad, can you please tell her to stop? Like, this is absurd. But everywhere I would go in my life, all of a sudden I would be like a degree apart from him again and again and again and again. And not just in showbiz world, like in all these different pockets, right? So it started to become really weird, like super, like, what is this world that I'm living inside of is super trippy and weird. And so then I decided this, after the like 10th time, right, of some like weird run-in or a 1 degree, I was like, okay, this is too weird. I have to write something with this. So I started a writing class, and I was starting a rom-com script, like a screenplay around this idea. But I set it aside and then was working on things that were like that I could actually produce.
Right.
Life happens, drama, not in a good way. I produce these things. I'm exhausted. I'm depleted. What is life? And then my friend Angela invited me to a women's writing group. It's just like an intimate group of people. And I showed up on the first day. I was like, I've got nothing. I feel like, can I swear on this thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
It's going to be an excuse for me to like connect back to creative juice, something.
Mm-hmm.
So I open up my laptop and then all of a sudden it starts like flooding out into my lap and my fingers typing. And it's like the opening scene to this solo play. And I'm like, oh, and it just started to flow out of me. And then I was hearing new songs that I was starting to kind of rewrite lyrics to. And I was like, what is happening? I think I'm writing a solo play. I'm not a playwright. Like I've written screenplays, but I'd never written a play. I, of course, grew up with theater in my being. So I have some sort of sense, but I was writing myself a solo play and it just really flew out of me. So it follows this idea of my mom planting this seed and then me being like, that's ridiculous. But then the universe saying like, Jake.
Maybe it's not so ridiculous.
Maybe it's not so ridiculous. So I'm going to like go for it. And then drama ensues. Yeah.
And so you had a successful run. So you wrote the play.
Yeah.
How did the process go of getting the opportunity to have this run in New York?
So this has been years in the making. It's interesting because I wrote the play and it was moving along again, the universe was like, yes. I read those first pages the day I wrote it and people are like, did you just come up with this? I want to that's hilarious. I want to see it. So I was like, okay. Because usually you're like, I don't know, this could be terrible. Right.
Yeah.
But I was getting like encouragement. I'm like, okay, I guess it's decent. I'll keep going. And so I wrote it fairly quickly. And then I attended this event through Seed and Spark, the crowdfunding platform. They were putting together, it's called the Creative Sustainability Summit. And it was designed to offer filmmakers like best practices, tools, whatever, inspiration to how you make your creative career sustainable.
Right.
So the big event of the day was Mark Duplass, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's a wonderful actor and very successful indie filmmaker. Very well known in the indie space. He's on the morning show. I don't know if you watch that show, but he's great. And I've always admired him. So he was there to work with 3 different filmmakers who were chosen. You were supposed to pitch something in advance and then he was going to like help you hack the project.
Right.
So I ended up submitting this other project, a TV series that I was struggling with. Very last minute, my producing partner was like, just send in something. Okay. Meanwhile, I had started writing this play. I show up to the event. Angela and our other colleague was there. We didn't plan it. I was like, oh, we're all here. Right. And I assumed that day that they notified the filmmakers in advance who was going to be pitching. They start to announce, the first filmmaker, and everyone's going crazy. And this is an auditorium filled with like several hundred people. I mean, it was like a balcony and everything. And I remember turning to Angela and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad it's not me. I would have no idea what to say. Melissa Center. Oh no. So I go up on stage. I was like, and then I had to pitch to Mark. And so I was like, what the heck did I even submit? Like, what's it about? I hadn't looked at it in months. So I told him the log line for the series. And I said to him, I have to be really honest with you. I'm really struggling with even continuing to work on this. It feels so heavy because it was about like inherited ancestral trauma.
Right. That's pretty heavy.
It was dark times. And Mark, I know he's very vocal. He navigates depression and anxiety and is very vocal about that and to help other artists. Yeah. So really like clocked where I was at in that moment. And he said, okay, knowing that, let's set it aside for a second. Is there anything you're like wanting to work on? And so like very off the cuff, I said, well, I happen to be writing this play, and I wasn't ever going to think about saying that in that space because this is all for filmmakers. Yeah. So I turn to the audience and I say, my mom is convinced I'm supposed to marry Jake Gyllenhaal. Everyone cracks up. And Mark jumps off of his chair and he's like, tell me more. And so then I started talking about like, you know, what I shared with you and the meaning behind it. And I was very vulnerable, you know, like here I am, like kind of lost in the wilderness and really looking for love and having these like really horrible experiences. But there's this idea of this person, right? And like the universe keeps thrusting him into my space. Like, you know, is that ridiculous? Like what, you know, so I don't remember exactly what I said, but something to that effect of kind of what I was navigating at the time. And then, you know, everyone was going crazy and he like jumps out of his chair. He starts acting out scenes. And then he's like, you know, here's a moment where you can introduce the theme from that other thing, like about inherited trauma, because this, you know, these conversations have to come from somewhere, right? Like you're something with your mom and this like celebrity obsession. And, you know, so I was like, okay. So then people were coming up to me afterwards, like, I ran into Jake, you know, I was here in New York City and we bumped into each other on the subway. Like, it was so crazy. Well, then it was very clear to me that I had to keep going. So it was a lot of wind in my sails, like so bad. In coming into that day, I was like on rock bottom. I like had given up on like existence. I mean, that's dramatic. I wasn't ever gonna self-harm, but like I was really not in a good way. And then all of a sudden the universe, you know, was like, keep going. So it was clear to me to keep going. So the plan was to produce it at the Edinburgh Fringe, which in case anyone doesn't know, is like the biggest international theater festival in the world. And so I submit the play. I had a venue. I had tickets. I had my theater all set, airfare, accommodations. I found out that Jake was supposed to do a remount of Sunday in the Park with George at the West End, same timing. And his co-star, Annalee Ashford, I was in Masters of Sex with. So I was like, I got tickets to the show. I'm like, I'm going to show up and get the information with my Fringe show there. And it's going to be like hilarious. And I can, you know, build buzz around it like this old madcap adventure. And then it was 2020 and everything shut down. So that put everything. So I was like, motherfucker, right? Yeah. So then I had to pivot. So I ended up launching a crowdfunding campaign. This is how I learned how to do it well. Yeah. Middle of the pandemic for a live stream production out of a theater in LA called the Pico. We filmed it with 3 cameras. It was the first time we were bringing like a real sense of theater to people in this time because everyone was doing like Zoom readings. Yeah. You know, that was like too depressing for me. So a whole production, it was really successful. Crowdfund, people were so excited about the project. We ended up also selling tickets and donating. I'm trying to remember how much, $1,000, $1,500. I don't know. It's an artist relief. And it was a huge success, but it was just really performed that once, right? Like I had filmed it a couple times for the edit, but I just hit live, quote unquote, live in front of, you know, the camera once. So then we cut it together. I had a product. I submitted to the Fringe the next year because they were doing hybrid. Got some press around it. Yeah. And then I decided to move back to New York. So then I thought, okay, I want to finally do it here home, where I'm home. I mean, it's not Chicago's my home, but like I'm home in New York, right? Yep. How do I do that? There was like a backlog from COVID projects. I was still figuring out, you know, community here. I know people, but I need to like reestablish myself. My director was based in LA. It wasn't going to be practical for her to like come out here and do this with me. So I needed to find a new director. Then I learned some more information that was very pertinent to my narrative that I couldn't unsee, that I was like, oh no, okay, I have to address this. So I was doing some rewrites. I ended up putting together industry read last summer with Jen, my director. We did some, you know, rewrites and then invited potential producers. I took this like theater producing class because I'm trying to get it along. I invited people and she brought a couple who are producers who she was working on for another developmental project. And they really responded. And that, you know, it's like a lot of time in between these things too. It's like, do they want to work with me? Like, what's the deal? So finally they were like, we have some budget to like help move this along. So we finally put together this run. And it was really like, I consider it a workshop or developmental run because it was the first time that it was in front of humans. So every week, it was spanning over the course of 2 months. I did the show, and then the performances were spaced out every couple of weeks.
Right.
So in between, we would make some tweaks.
Okay.
Right. So nothing major, but like from the first show to the last show, there were some changes made. What's working, what's not, what needs clarification, so it was kind of workshopping, but ultimately, we felt it went super well. And now we had our, postmortem. And once we have all of the footage, which we have some, we're going to cut together like a sizzle to then send to potential backers, other theaters to say like, we want to move this along.
Yeah.
Because the production was very like stripped, it's like, there's no lighting. We have the protections, but it's me, a stage, go. And so there's room, I feel, to fill this out from a design perspective, to help elevate this further. And certainly there are a couple of changes that will make, from the writing moving forward, nothing major, but continue to hone, continue to make it the best it can be.
Yeah. I absolutely love the story of how it came about. When you first told me that, I could not stop laughing. It was your mom's obsession with Jake Gyllenhaal, and just so funny. I think it's hilarious. But that you were able to take that and turn that into something tangible to build and put out there for the world. I think it's absolutely incredible. It speaks to who you are as an actress, who you are as a producer, and just your love for the craft. I think it's incredible.
Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. Now, to date, what would you say is your biggest high or your greatest win?
Surviving.
That's a big one.
I'm still here. Yeah, I mean, just like having resilience to keep going, even when it's like really freaking hard. Career, like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. Yeah. I mean, I've had, exciting things in terms of career. Like I just shot a guest star on Chicago Fire.
Congratulations.
Post strike, which was, being back in New York. This is my first now. Well, actually immediately post strike, I booked a role on the opening episode of FBI. So that was like, okay, cool. I'm back in New York and I'm working again, you know. And the guest star on Chicago Fire was a big step forward for me. So that was great. But yeah, I mean, I think there's so much more room for me with other people's projects to have larger wins that I'm looking forward to. But I can be like highlights for me. Well, originating that solo show, it was an adaptation of The Giver by Lois Lowry. And I got to do that at the Museum of Jewish Heritage downtown. It's a beautiful, huge space where she was then acknowledged and she was there. So that was like a huge highlight for me. And my own, making a movie, like making a feature film that premiered at the Old Grauman's Chinese, on
that's
that big
pretty
screen
fucking big
in Los Angeles. That was a huge deal.
You should be very proud.
Thank you.
Very proud. And your theater production, I mean, that's a lot. Yeah. You've done some pretty fucking amazing things.
Thanks. I'm really proud of my solo show. It's so fun. I think because it's still in process, I guess. Yeah. I don't know if it ends, but it's like, I haven't had my peak with that yet.
Yeah.
It's been like awesome.
It's just getting off the ground right now. So still a ways to go yet. But I mean, you were able to bring it together and put it out there. I think that's pretty fucking amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah. What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
I'm stubborn as fuck.
All right. That's it. Plain and simple. Speaking of success, how do you define that word? What does success mean to you?
Success means having a vision and seeing it come to fruition. That's really it. I think as an artist, you have to constantly redefine what success means because there are certain dreams or expectations that don't always necessarily line up with reality. Okay. But yeah, I mean, wanting to achieve something and achieving it. That is successful for me.
Okay. What would you say? Oh, I'm hearing myself come back. Oh, what would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before you learned it? And what was your life like after learning it?
I don't know if you're hearing those dings from my computer, so I'm sorry. Hopefully those edited out. So I think it's okay to stop and rest. And actually, the pandemic really forced me to do that. It was very uncomfortable for me, if you can imagine. I mean, for most people, but like for someone who's constantly do, not comfortable.
Yeah.
But that is necessary. It's necessary to stop. It's sometimes not doing something in a day and being quote unquote lazy or whatever is necessary. I don't like how that feels, but I've been way kinder to myself now, having kind of gone through that whole forced rest, where sometimes it's like, I'm just gonna watch TV today. That's okay. That's rare. But even on the weekend for me, like if I like literally sit around and watch TV, I feel like I'm a useless person, which is crazy. But sometimes it's like, oh no, that's just what I need to do right now. My body needs rest.
Yep.
And so I'm beating myself up less and less about having to be productive 24/7, give myself a little more breathing room. And also knowing that a lot of the good stuff happens in the pause.
For sure.
In terms of intuitive hits or like things coming through. So I had no awareness about that before. I was like, up, go, full calendar, 7 to whatever. Rinse, repeat, pound. I'm too old for that shit.
It's not sustainable. It's just, we have to give our bodies a rest. We have to take downtime, and we have to remember to give ourselves grace and space around that. It's okay to do that. We are human beings, not human doings. So it's being aware of that and having the self-awareness to realize that, wait a minute, I need to slow the fuck down. I can't keep doing this.
Yeah. So in a way, my time in LA really forced me to make peace with that kind of way of being. So that is a positive thing, because my New York self prior was like, a little insane. And now having come back, I feel like it's more of a happy balance where I can feel alive and feel like I'm kind of out and about. And I love that feeling. But it's also sometimes I'm like, no, it's too much for me to go meet X person or this networking event or whatever. I can do like 2 in a week, and then I have to chill and take care of myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Or like go to the park.
Yeah, just chill out.
Yeah.
What would you say is one of your biggest failures or teachable moments, and what did you learn from it?
I'm perfect. So I think because I hold myself to very, very, sometimes impossible standards, and I push myself. I think there were a couple instances in which I assumed that other people could handle that kind of thing. And so in my desire to let's say, inspire someone to their best work, they weren't ready to handle that. I'm thinking of an example in which I was teaching at a colleague's studio. And so I was pushing a couple people because I was thought that they had the inner understanding to rise to the occasion, but they didn't. And so I've learned to not make assumptions about people. That was I think a failure of mine to push a person or a couple people in a way where they couldn't handle that, and that has detrimental effects.
Yeah.
And so that was, an unfortunate lesson that I learned. That's the first thing that came to mind. And that, and I know I'm a very strong person, and not everyone's just like that.
Yeah.
So sometimes learning to be sensitive to people who can't handle directness or whatever it is, that has been something that I'm still learning how to assess people in that way, so that, there's nothing harmful there in terms of my always well-intended right, like trying to inspire people to be better or whatever, but sometimes that's just not going to be appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
Empowerment to me feels like really stepping into your whole authentic self and acting accordingly, and inspiring, I think, other people to do the same, like to raise other people up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next grouping of questions just be 1, 2, 3 word answer type thing. Okay.
Yeah.
What is one of your favorite quotes?
Oh, hold on. I think it's, a dish, but it's the writing's all messed up. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible.
I love that. Love that quote.
Yeah.
What is one thing you want that you cannot buy with money?
Love.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
Be kind.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
The first word that came to my mind is not right, but it was good for humor.
You could say it. Go for it.
Fucked. That's not right, though. It was just funny.
Let's find the appropriate one.
Yeah. Can you ask me the question again?
Yep. How would you describe yourself in one word?
Alive.
What is one thing you love about yourself that is not related to your physical appearance?
Like tenderness.
What is your favorite self-care practice?
Dancing.
And that concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I threw in a bonus question that I did not send you ahead of time. If you could take one feeling or one belief, bottle it up and give it to people, what would it be?
You are enough.
Mm-hmm. What is your why, Melissa?
Real human connection.
If you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
What is a favorite thing to do, zero relation to work?
What is that?
Like explore, walk around New York City neighborhoods, just kind of like go where the inspiration takes me, discover beautiful buildings and sounds and music and kind of flow with the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
This is hard. Gloria Steinem came to mind.
Okay.
Because she's obviously a feminist. She came up in a time where the cards were stacked against her, and she's made a real big impact. I think it would be really cool to chat with her and learn about her more, how she was able to overcome those obstacles when it's exhausting and the world, hates you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Have more fun.
Lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your tribe, your people, your corner of the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
I'm getting a little emotion. I would say, above all else, no matter what anyone says, keep going. Whatever you feel like your special offering is for the world, no one can take that away from you. Keep going. The world needs it, and that you are special and not alone. And above all else, profoundly loved.
Melissa, thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today to share a little bit about the beautiful light you put out into the world through all the work you're doing, for sharing a bit about your story, your journey. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure to sit down and have this opportunity to speak with you and to share all of that, share all the things, Melissa. I appreciate you. I am so grateful to know you and have you as a member of the Empowerography community. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Once again, my name is Brad Welsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Melissa Center. She is an actress, an award-winning filmmaker, a speaker, a champion and advocate for women and women's voices, and also known as the Crowdfunding Queen. Thanks so much, Melissa. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.